Okay. Want to start the meeting and then I'll put the on? Okay, so this is the Economic Development, Historic Preservation, and Environmental Conservation meeting. I see on the line Brian Backus and Clark Henry, Dart Strayer, Denise Murphy McGraw.
Good morning.
John, Chairman Delarada.
Yes.
Josh Hawley. Planning Board Chair Kevin Wall. Elena, we get a lot of feedback from your computer for some reason. Is live stream you, Dennis? Brennan?
Yes, I'm here.
Yep. And Matthew Yetto. Michelle Martinelli.
Good morning.
Stan Faminsky. Supervisor Syed.
Morning, everyone.
And then I have two phone. Oh, and I saw Isma Alam just joined. And I have two phone numbers. Is one of them you, Josh? And probably
one of them is me, Laura. It's Rosemarie. Good morning, everybody.
Hi, hello. Okay. I think the other one is Josh. I think he ends in *67. Does anybody know if Paul Briggs is going to attend this morning?
667 is me, Laura. Jessica.
Oh, hi, Jessica. Okay.
And I am here too, Laura.
Okay. So Jessica Gerber of the engineering department. So, okay, I think we're ready to go. Thanks, John.
Very good. And do we have anybody from the public or any emails that have come in for public concerns?
No.
Okay. And that would bring us to the minutes.
We don't have a set of minutes for this meeting.
Very good. How about our COVID-19 updates?
So just quickly, building department and planning department are still trying to function basically at 100%, although it's a little bit hard to do because we've split and we're working from home, some of us. But what we do is we split into two crews so that, and each crew has a building inspector. Each crew kind of has somebody who can help with the building department. And then each crew has a planner. So, and then they go every other day. So we're at 50% in office, and we're still trying to do the best we can with the offices closed, but our department, essentially still open. And so we do allow people to bring building permits, to town hall, but we meet them outside, and we're allowing a lot of things to be emailed. Clerk and I still receive building planning applications in the mail, and do occasionally need to meet somebody outside the building so that they can continue on with their planning application. So we have 50% crew, and the hope on that is that if one of them gets infected and has to quarantine, the other one can just continue full time until the one can come back, and so there'd be a little interruption in service for our residents. But it is a little bit hard, so it does make things take a little bit longer, and sometimes it's hard to communicate back and forth as much as we try with phones and virtual staff meetings. There's still a little bit of a disconnect between the two crews occasionally. So, so we're doing our best. We're trying to keep everybody super safe and still provide the best service that we can on that. If anybody has any questions?
Excellent. And number 4, board vacancies.
So I put a list on here of the spots we have left after reappointment of everybody that we did on the organizational meeting. And we had a couple of people from CAC who actually really aren't leaving the town. Amanda Matuzik, she's on 3 boards. So she decided that she needed to, work on her time a little bit. And so she's going to stick with Tree Council and Climate Smart Community Task Force. But, and then, Tina Lee, I think, got appointed to the board and the co-op. And Jill Connell just had some things come up with COVID that related to her time and schedule, so she wasn't able to continue. So we have 3 vacancies on the CAC. That's pretty high. As soon as we can get email out, we'd like to try and, fill them as quickly as possible. That's probably the biggest deal for our boards there. Tree Council has 2 vacancies. I put 9-person, 7-person. Our code actually calls it a 7-person board, but we've been operating it as a 9-person board since I started. So if you consider it a 9-person board, we have 2 vacancies. They're an active board, so I prefer to have 9 people because then we can distribute the workload a little bit. But someday down the line, we probably just need to kind of clarify that. Complete Streets has got 1 vacancy. Climate Smart Communities Task Force had 3, and a lot of that was people just shifting around among the committees. And then the Architectural Review Board, I'm putting 3 vacancies here. We originally appointed 3 people. 1 person was unable to continue, mostly because, again, COVID kind of changed their life. But Clark has been working really hard on it. It's been working really well, and we want to try and expand it. It's definitely, I think, shaping up to be a good board. And so 5 people would probably make it a little more reasonable, so that if 1 person can't make it, it's not a 2-person board. So if and when we made the resolution, we made it to have the ability to 5 people. So I guess for now, I'd be asking to see if we can find 3 more people to put on that board. And my idea, which I think Denise has said this a bunch of times, is we can essentially put the vacancies out in an email blast explaining to people what the boards are and inviting people to send their resumes. I think was the way that we wanted to handle it this time.
That sounds good. Is there something else we can do on top of that?
Well, for CAC, we do have 1 person who's emailed me already. So I just need to get back to her and see if she can send in, her resume. But I think that if you guys are comfortable doing an email blast, we should be able to have a whole lot of names, if not by the end of this month, the end of next month, although it would be nice to have it at the end of this month. But I know that you guys like to review too. So I guess we'll kind of see how many applications we get, and I can keep you updated and kind of send it around. And then, you guys can kind of decide where you want to go from there.
Hey, Laura, just real quickly on the ARB, I know Michael's passed on a resume of an extremely qualified candidate who he's reached out to, and I know Dave has a couple others in mind too. So I think we've got some line of sight to people there.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had forgotten that. Thank you, Claire.
Okay, how are we doing with our Knott Street area improvement progress?
So we had just a brief internal touch base with the MJ engineering meeting on the 5th. And the idea of that was to just get, like town departments together and take a look at some of the ideas that have been thrown back and forth before and get on the same page with what the town would be willing to accept, like, like cul-de-sac versus, things that we don't even really want them to go down and engineer and make plans for. We had, I think, good attendance to that. MJ is currently working on a summary of that meeting. They don't have any concept plans yet because that meeting was really to direct them which way they want to go with the concept plans. Some of the ideas and thoughts and concerns that, town department heads. And there's a couple members of the Complete Streets on there and a couple members of the planning board. So that we can run the public comment portion of the concept plans through the planning board. So I thought it went really well. Kevin was there. Clark was there. I don't know if you guys have anything to add.
No, it was a good meeting. Looking forward to the minutes and the presentation. I'm sure you'll get that out to this committee and all the town board members, of course. So.
Yep.
Excellent.
So that's moving forward. Their timeline is pretty aggressive, which I'm fine with. They want to try and have, initial concepts for traffic coming out in February and intersection realignment, with kind of full concepts to present to the, the public by March. And, similar to what we did, well, with us, similar to what the county did is, I think before we go fully public, we also want to meet with the adjacent property owners and get their comments on some of the plans too, so that, we're incorporating everybody's kind of thoughts ahead of time, then get the public input and then try and find a concept plan that can have as much consensus as possible. Then we've had this discussion before. If we can get all that consensus and really get everybody behind a concept plan, and maybe we'll look for funding sources and see, what we can do to try and make that happen if we can when the county is out there.
Excellent. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, I think that's good.
Do we need any resolutions? It looks like we got a couple here.
So I just put these as draft because I know they're timely and Ismat's been asking for them. I don't have any work really done on them yet. I can try, so I would call both of them tentative. But I know we look at the building fees and we made them a little more sort of commensurate with the surrounding building department fees to kind of help. We've been operating with building permit fees that hadn't been updated, I think, for like 15 years in some instances. The same is true of the planning fees. So like Clark and I and Ismat need to sit down with the planning fees and, take a look at what they are in adjacent communities and, update them. A lot of the planning fees haven't been updated in a really long time as well. So it would be a very similar resolution to the building department fees, but this would be for planning fees. And then the other thing that we had budgeted for was this vacant home registration. It requires code, and I guess we really have to look and decide if we want the code to be in the zoning code, which is a big undertaking, or if we want vacant home registration to be in one of the other chapters, like for instance, buildings, or one of the other chapters that we can amend a little bit more easily. And then that would be calling for a public hearing if we can get that done by the end of January.
What do you think about that, Kevin? That vacant home registration code, is that something we need to do with zoning?
I mean, obviously, I guess I don't have any strong opinions, but it seemed like it would be a good thing just to have it for the town to be able to monitor upkeep, maintenance, status, whatever. But it seems to be, seems to be a good idea.
John,
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to put it in the building section of the code, not the zoning.
Okay.
So that makes it easier.
All right.
And so if that's true, then I think all we have to do, if we put it in the building code, is we would get the draft code and then call for a public hearing on the draft code at the January meeting.
Okay.
Laura, is the draft code done?
No. We do have like some other communities that we could look at for it, but no, I haven't really dug into it yet.
Okay, so
hi, this is Ismat. So it's going to be retroactive to 1/1, right, Laura?
I know you've said that before. If we can do it that way, I'm fine with that. Although I'm not sure that code works like that.
It doesn't work that way.
Okay, so it's going to be effective of the day of when the resolution is passed, or do we need to have a public hearing for it?
Well, we have to have the public hearing, and then there'll be another resolution passing a local law, so it would take effect once that resolution is approved.
Okay, so probably like in February or something.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good then. But we still need to get together. I sent an email last week or week before that we need to get together to talk about the process itself. And I would really need the legal perspective on that too, please. So I'll send an invite for next week.
Okay, anything else on that code? And that brings us to the planning board items.
Okay, so I've got just a couple updates, and I know that I've written broken in first, but I'm going to jump over that one and come back to it. The River Road Kelts Farm, still in engineering. I touch base with Joel Bezoin about it fairly regularly. There's a lot of backlog, mostly with stormwater engineering. And so, he's looking to have that engineering completed soon. But I mean, he's really just on pause while he's at the mercy of his engineer schedule. and there's a lot of demand right now for that kind of work, so it's taking a while. The 2627 Choice Connectivity Road, this is the corner of Shannon Boulevard and Route 7, has a public hearing this Monday. We've put it on our website, put it in the paper, mailed it. So hopefully we get good attendance on that public hearing. It's had a lot of public input already, had a lot of meetings out there with homeowners, but we always encourage people to still come to the public hearing, know how they feel about it. That's got, essentially one home on one of the proposed lots, which is the historic home, which Joel has been doing a lot of work on. So we're very hopeful, based on the amount of work he's put into it, that home is going to stay, which is really good because that home is one of the first farm homes we have in the town of Niskayuna.
Oh.
And then 3 lots for new single family homes, and then the whole back of it, we talked about that becoming public open space and potentially combining it with the Elisha Kill. So that's the public hearing on that. I wrote Ace Hardware and Chase Bank are both open because yesterday we thought we were going to be able to issue the CO for Ace Hardware. It's not issued, but hopefully by the end of this morning it'll be issued. So I actually expect that Ace Hardware will probably be open about Monday. But they have all of their wares, on their shelves. They've got all their staff. They're ready to go. So hopefully they'll be open on Monday. And Chase Bank has been open for a while. It looks great down there if anybody hasn't had a chance to go down there. And then if you're driving up Balltown Road, you may have noticed that the Aquaduck Animal Hospital is under construction. So that got approved. They're out there. They're pulling out all the animal hospital stuff out of the base of the building, and then they're going to start making that look a whole lot better. One of the things that happened to this project that happened after the last meeting that we had is that DOT refused to allow them to have 2 curb cuts onto Balltown Road. So he's going to remove most of the asphalt in front of the building, turn it into grass, and all the parking is going to be to the one side, which he didn't want to do. And the planning board was willing to work with him on stuff, but I actually think the end product of that is much better. It's going to make that whole area look more residential. Mm-hmm. So silver lining to DOT being the bad guys is that, that building is going to look really nice when he's done. I'm going to see a new parking lot over there. Did anybody have any questions on those?
That is a good, that sounds good, Laura. The public hearing, actually, that's going to be virtual. So are people going to do emails on that, or is the town hall going to be open for people that want to come in? How are we doing the public hearing on Shannon Boulevard?
Yeah, it's virtual. The planning board has held a whole bunch of public hearings this way. You can email, but we also directly put in the public hearing, which we actually did for the town board the other day too, the login to the meeting. So they don't have to email me for it. They don't have to contact anybody for it. They have it. It's posted in the paper. Anybody who wants to can log in and speak at the public hearing. If they can't speak, if they don't know how to use that system and they're uncomfortable, they can email. I read all emails. And we're willing to work with anybody who has any kind of needs to want to be able to participate in that public hearing. But typically we've had really good attendance, and this is just a tad bit off topic, but I was at the CDTC meeting on Wednesday, and Bethlehem has got a a planning moratorium, new development moratorium, while they're updating their comprehensive plan. And so they've had virtual public hearings on their comprehensive plan, and they had like almost 200 people, which Kevin knows, like for a comprehensive plan, that's pretty darn good. And it's all virtual. And so I do think that you really have to be careful, because there definitely are some people out there who have technology challenges or don't have the ability, to reach that technology. So I do think you do have to be a bit careful saying that this is, sort of a silver bullet for public input. But we have seen a lot of public input with these virtual public hearings. I think in some instances, people who wouldn't take the time to get in their car and drive to town hall do participate, but you do have to be careful with those people who also have that barrier. And so in any way that we can help, if you ever hear anything, we're willing to modify. But I do think that we get a lot of public hearing comments, even though it's a virtual meeting.
Excellent. And it looks like we got a couple zoning board cases.
Oh yeah, but so let me jump back to the parking. I just wanted to show you quickly.
Hey, Laura, I had a quick question as you're doing that. Driving in today, I noticed that there's construction and lumber on the apartments across from Town Hall.
Yeah, they're framing.
So that's kicked back up. Maybe I missed that, but that's moving forward again now.
I think it's really interesting because the last time that I spoke with Dave Fusco, they had said that they were just going to put the floor. So we didn't want them to close that project with the open foundation. And so they had talked about putting the flooring over the top of the foundation that had been poured, and that was the way that they were going to winterize it. But they're fully started framing it. So, and which they're perfectly welcome to and allowed to do. There's no problem at all with them framing it. They've gone beyond what they had said that they were going to stop for winter.
Right.
So that's great. Yeah, they're building the building. Can you guys see the PowerPoint? Let me put this on here. What's my little PowerPoint button?
Yes, just a little small, Laura.
There you go. So Clark and Kevin and Dave and the applicant, Mr. Nicky, have really been looking at the parking. There's still a bit more work to be done. Clark and I were talking earlier. It's quite a complicated process. But you know, we all listened to the town board meeting and understood the concerns about parking, and so we're really taking a thorough analysis of it to make sure that, you know, we've looked at it from all angles, made sure that we're, you know, protecting the existing parking that other businesses need, and just being really sensitive to that being, you know, the main issue that the town board had kicked back to the planning board to look at. So Clark has just done some quick analysis of the parking. He's got you know, explanation of how it works, what the total numbers are that we figure out when we look at all the square footage. You've like literally got the math down here for each of these spaces, what the linear frontage is, you know, what the existing parking is. And we're not taking into account any of the parking spaces across the street or anything that, you know, we'd be losing from the county plan. There are some parking in the back of these buildings. This is kind of just, again, the data as we're diving into all this parking, and Clark did all of this. He's been working really hard on it. It's great. He's got, this is like a histogram chart. Whoops, darn it. How do I go back? Of the time that the businesses are open, because, you know, we've talked a lot about that maybe the peak times of the restaurant aren't going to coincide with the peak times of the businesses, which will also be helpful. Because shared parking, the whole point of shared parking really is to try and have like hours that complement each other rather than everybody needing the parking at, like, you know, noon and then nobody needing it like 10 o'clock at night. Shared parking, you really want to kind of spread out the way that the hours are needed. So he's got hours of operation up here. Just these are like the zoning requirements for each one of those buildings and uses. And so we're going to look at all of that. We are going to really dive into it at the next planning board meeting, and hopefully, you know, we'll have a really detailed discussion. Anybody who's interested, feel free to tune in, and that'll give us good guidance for moving forward with this project, potentially at the end of January. I think we've got it potentially for the end of January, unless something really comes up that we have to address.
Laura, who does the plowing there? I got a couple of calls from Gail and Langs, and apparently the plowing was done differently on that last storm than it was in the past. I don't know if the town has anything to do with that or if that's the county.
Yeah, the town doesn't have anything to do with it, and actually the county doesn't plow that parking either. It's not, and I'm not downplaying that it, you know, that it isn't something that the planning board, you know, can talk about and work through. But since I've been here, there's been complaints among property owners about who does the plowing there. It's kind of like combined effort of let's you know, jointly figure out how to plow those spaces. It's done by the owners of the adjacent businesses, but I think I'm trying to, like, this is just from my memory. Like, I know that there was frustration from one business owner that went on vacation when they came back, and this is like 3 or 4 years ago. The other businesses had plowed all the snow in front of their building.
Right.
I mean, I know that I'm not laughing because that's not funny, but I just laugh at everything.
Yeah.
That, like, also this storm was unprecedented, and it is going to probably be plowed differently.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, I think what happens is that one of them or a couple of them call each other and decide how to get it plowed for one of the storms, or, for a season. And it works, variably well. I don't think it's ever worked perfectly. I do remember complaints about them amongst each other, not plowing correctly in front of each other's businesses. So it's not a great situation. The county will not plow it. The town doesn't plow it. It's a county road, county right of way. But it's something that we can bring up. We can't fix it wholly because we're only looking at one business. And I know that the county had talked when they were originally doing their project to see if there was a way that once they updated this right away, if they could turn it over to the private businesses. And I asked MJ about that the other day, and I guess it's not very feasible. So what it's going to end up being is maintenance contracts amongst the private businesses for plowing.
Okay, makes sense. Are we ready for zoning board?
Yeah, zoning board, just quick, has 2 cases, both just area variances. Pretty light there. The grant for grants updates, the River Road Park is basically complete. They still have to put the fencing up, the chain link fencing. They've got the posts, but they have to put the mesh up, and that's they were waiting for the ground to fully freeze so that they didn't mess up all the work that they just did. They've got some site restoration that they've got to do. They did pour the concrete last week. Jess and Josh and Matt have just been outstandingly, fantastically helping on this project. And Jess has been doing the weekly SWIP inspections, which is totally awesome. So she had gone out there, she thought just, I think yesterday, and made sure that they had addressed everything that she had for them last week, and they had done it. So she's on top of them for the stormwater, which is great. The thing that I put over in legal, we can talk about it here or at legal, that's really outstanding on this. It's going very well. The fields are going to be ready to play. I think everybody should be pretty happy with the outcome of it, but the soils out there were totally bad, and the contractor has sent us a letter disputing $30,000 of work because they had to bring in topsoil. The topsoil that was stripped did not meet the requirements for topsoil. So we need to have an internal meeting with our legal department and our engineering department to see if we, what we can do about this and, how we can move forward with the disputed work.
Sorry, this is this much again. So we met with Laura, I think this week, and for as far as the accounting and the finances of the grants, we will be taking care of them from this year. And then John, would you like to be in that first meeting? In the final meeting? About grants.
He's trying to unmute himself, Isma. There he goes.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute. I guess the sooner the better, as long as we're ready for it, Isma.
Exactly. So I am, I think, Laura, if you can send us the last worksheet that Janet asked you for, we can meet as soon as possible, like next week.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
I've got planning board packets and a hard deadline for today. So I don't think that I'll be able to do the grant worksheet today. If I can, I will, and I'll send it out to you and feel really good about myself, but it's probably Monday.
That's fine. That's fine. Monday's
Okay.
good.
Okay. Oh, and the other thing for River Road Park, and Josh, Matt, feel free to jump in. One of the things that they installed for Field 1 was a outfall for the under drains. And I think when they originally did the survey of the park, it looked like there was a swale along the road that goes from the basketball parking lot all the way to the end of the little circle where you can park to go into the forest trails. That road, it looked like there was a swale that went along that road, but the actual field conditions when they put that outfall in, there's really not. And so I think going forward, they're saying there's not a lot of water that's going to come out of that outfall because it's an under drain to a softball field. So it's not like it's taking in a whole stream. But when it rained really hard a little while ago, like Josh was out there taking pictures, and it's still some water. So we asked them what it would cost to put in the swale, and they didn't want to do it. So it was, it was a very high estimate. It was like $14,000. We're obviously not going to pay $14,000 for a swale. But I think we do probably in the spring want to look at that and see what we want to do out there. And then the only other thing, and this is probably good for other people to be like, yeah, we don't really care, or yeah, that's something we want to take care of. But there is quite a bit of grade drop where the outfall comes out. It's just like, any kind of outfall that you see, it's like a little pipe. And so there's, there's soil on top, and then the bottom is like, I'm going to say like 1.5 feet lower. And so like my thought was that we could just put 2 split rail fences on either side to note so that people aren't walking and all of a sudden, walk over a 1.5 foot drop. May not be needed. I just have done that in my life. So I feel like when I see those grade changes, I like to mark them. I mean, maybe we can just mark it with a flag, but there might be a couple touch up things that we want to do in the spring to this outfall. Okay. And Aquaduck Park, we're working on the reimbursement. And that's the one that we had the big discussion at the town board meeting about whether or not we want to use parkland or Rivers Ledge park money. It sounds like I think we want to have some internal meetings about that, which is fine. So whenever anybody wants to set that up, I'm happy to be there, and I can bring all of the numbers. I think I've talked to you guys about this last meeting. We did have to hold about $50,000 of work until the spring because the docks couldn't be put in. So we can't quite close them all out, but we can get a lot of reimbursement. I mean, we've spent the majority of the money on that. So we'll get the reimbursement coming in and then decide if we want to use parkland money or if we want to use Rivers Ledge park money on that. As I said before, there's really no bad decisions here. Good use of money, and you're getting a lot. Like if you use Rivers Ledge money, it's coming from the developer. If you use parkland money, it's matched. So for every dollar you spend, you're getting $1 for the canal for it. So, and either way you do it, it'll be all right. But that's your decision.
I think, Laura, that should be part of the grants meeting discussion.
Okay, so we can put that on there.
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any timing issues we need to worry about on that?
I mean, the timing issue that I had concerns of was paying that invoice because, I mean, as Paul Briggs had said, we were contractually obligated to pay it, but it has been paid. So as far as I know, there's no longer, more invoices will come, but I don't have any sitting on my desk right now. And the critical pedestrian grant, I was going to attach the email here, but we submitted all of the documentation that I had talked to you guys about. The Complete Streets did a lot of counts. We hired Weston and Sampson to do the engineering. They put together a really great engineering package that was sent over to the county for review, and it took quite a while to get response from them, but they did end up giving us a response yesterday or 2 days ago. And they are still pushing back and are trying really, basically feel like they don't want to see a crossing at St. Joseph Road and River Road. So I have a meeting with our engineer to see what our response to this can be, but it may be also an internal meeting that we want to have ourselves on how we can present this more to the county and get them on board with this. They had originally supported the crosswalk here, and so there's been some change in personnel over there, and I think it's less supported, well, clearly less supported over there, but it's a very high priority crossing for us. So I guess maybe we can talk about it here, or maybe we can talk about it later if we want to continue pushing for the county for that crossing there, which would be my recommendation, or if we want to accept that the county doesn't want the crossing there and then redirect the funding, to other crossings in town is the question on that one.
Hey, Laura, I would recommend that we really push the county on this. This has been a long-term objective that has been discussed periodically in the town. Even back when we had the prior committee to complete streets, it was identified as a really important crossing. So I would say we try to push them a little bit more before we redirect the money.
I would favor that as well, Laura. Who exactly do we go to on the county for that?
Well, I mean, we've been working with Paul Sheldon and Joe Landry, and as long as you guys are still supportive of us, we'll continue to go back and forth with them on their engineering and on the numbers and the things that, they have concerns about. As long as you guys want us to keep trying, we'll definitely keep trying.
I would appreciate that, Laura. I mean, Dart is absolutely right. This is an issue that we've been working on since we used to call it Safe Routes.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about it, and, Supervisor Landry worked on this issue. So it would be great if we can continue to at least pursue the conversation.
We'll keep working on it then.
Excellent.
Good. That's how I feel. I just want to make sure before we push the county and put ourselves.
And we appreciate your efforts. You haven't given up on it, Laura. And that's, that means a lot to at least John and me. So thank you.
Okay,
And
good.
Laura, let me know if you meet with Joe or Paul, or if you want me to reach out to them and kind of give them a little nudge. More than happy to do that.
It might be really helpful. I mean, I have the meeting with our engineer to get his thoughts on what their concerns were. And then if we have another meeting with them, maybe we can do something like that where we bring somebody else along with us.
All right.
And Upper Union Street, really no change. I got to get with MJ and see when we want to change that scope. Just with the climate, we know we're not going to spend $1 over that. So we have to change that a little bit and then rebid. It's not going to be rebid in January. It's probably going to be rebid in February is my guess. Complete Streets has been working away on stuff, working on the items that we talked about at last month. Tree Council, I wanted to let you guys know that Carol Carey and I have worked pretty hard over the last week to get the Tree City application submitted. We were eligible because we did hold our drive-through Arbor Day. And actually for the first time in this application, I guess Ray, when his guys go out on their daily routines, they keep kind of a log of the work that they complete, and Patty can synthesize this. And so for this year, she synthesized, well, she put it together on how many hours they work on maintaining trees, like after storms, during just summertime, driving around pruning trees, all that kind of stuff. And it was a lot. It's way more than we've ever had. I mean, I think that it's typical actually of what they do, although maybe we've had a couple more storms this year. But we've never been able to include that in our application because I didn't realize that we had that data. And so we were able to include it this year. And so I think it made our application better and more complete. And it showed how much time and effort and, money that the town spends maintaining street trees and maintaining that, tree-lined street that's so integral to Niskuna and the property values here and everything like that. So it was an interesting application this year. I'm thankful to the highway department for helping, and Carol Carey really got that going. And I would expect that we would be certified again this year. So that's nice. Conservation Advisory Council had a really great meeting Wednesday, and Kathy's going to work on trying to find some wildflowers for us. So that's great, so that we can get the Lomo initiative going for Blatnick Park. We're thinking we might have to scale it back a little bit to make it look really nice, because we'd want the first one to be really nice. But we'll be ready for that one in the spring. And then we were able to purchase the lawn signs. We purchased them the very last day of this year. And so we're going to be working on probably a push. What we wanted to do is tie our push for that program to the first day of spring. So March 20th. We wanted to do a big push for pesticide-free lawns and really launch that program as hard as we can. The one thing that we had talked about before was initially we were going to ask for a donation for the lawn signs if people wanted to, but given the current fiscal environment, if you guys wanted, we could just make it mandatory. I don't think that anybody is going to complain about having to pay the cost of the sign is $2.50, but if we wanted to say $3, because partly because 50 cents isn't really hard for my staff to collect, partly because 50 cents could easily cover staff time spent administering this program. I don't think $3 is going to deter anybody from signing the pesticide-free pledge if they want. And the advantage to that would be if they have big lawns and stuff, we could change the form so they could write how many lawn signs they wanted and then pay us for the number of lawn signs, and that would be sort of money down to the pledge to go forward. So we could continue for it to be a feel free to donate to us, or we could just say $3 a sign. However many you want after you sign the pledge, you can have your signs. And then if we run out of the number of signs that we ordered, we can just order more, because it's essentially, it's not costing the town anything.
And would they pick them up at town hall? Is that how that would work?
Yeah, after they sign the pledge, they could come get them at town hall.
Laura, I think $3 or $5, and if I know it was my idea to do that, optional, or pay what you can. But there is an administrative fee to this, and there is a fee to the manufacturing of them. So I don't think that $3 or $5, and don't undersell it. I mean, if $5 is just easier for you to collect, and I don't think anybody would be turned off by that.
Yeah,
it's a very
I
reasonable number. And if somebody says they just absolutely can't do the $5, I mean, we'll
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
we'll do whatever. But I just think it really is something that people are definitely interested in. I'm grateful that, you took this up on behalf of all of my begging and pleading and nagging. And I'm eager to see them. So you have the signs? You don't have them yet. You ordered them on last week?
Right. Yeah. We made them. So the last time you guys saw them, they were a little bendy. We made them slightly firmer. So,
okay.
And I'm just like, Greg at Knott Street office is so great to work with.
I know. I can't say enough good things about him.
I actually think that, I'm not sure, but I mean, he was literally on the phone with his person. And he is probably contributing partly with his business to this program to make the 400 signs that I needed happen. Like, he is unbelievable.
You just can't beat him. He's just wonderful, and he's so committed to our town. All right, well, just let me know when they're in, because then we will promote.
Oh
them.
yeah,
so
so probably they'll be here in like a week or two. He's ordering them for me.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, Laura. I know this has been extra work for you, but thank you.
Well, and Alan, and the whole CAC really. And then Ashok Ramasubramanian is one of our newer CAC members, and he's just so committed to working through environmental issues in the town of Niskuna, and he is going to take the lead on the natural resources inventory that we talked about bringing over to the CAC to see if we get them to work on it. And he's willing to get the groundwork going, and then we were thinking subcommittee at CAC, but now we're thinking maybe like separate task force that he can really run and do the bulk of the work, because he's so committed to this. We'll do whatever support that he needs. And so maybe a week or two after we do an email blast about the vacancies, we can do an email blast seeing if there's anybody else in the town who's willing. Or if we get a ton of interest in the CAC, maybe we can direct some of those people to be on this natural resources inventory group that will work on at least starting a natural resource inventory to help us guide what remaining green space we have left in the town. So he's moving forward on that, and I'm very thankful to all of those very dedicated volunteers that we have in the CAC. They're all amazing. And Climate Smart Community Task Force we got to set up a meeting this January. They are part of the youth initiative, but they haven't met. So when we get those applications in, we'll set up a meeting for the Climate Smart Community Task Force. We can outline what our plans are for 2021, and then take a look at anybody from the youth who wanted to be on that board as well. The Architectural Review Board, Clark, do you just want to do a summary of that?
Okay, sure. There's not a big update this time. We're mostly working with Joel Bezoin on a couple of his properties, the Kelts Farm project, looking at the designs he has for that, as well as his project on Troy Road. We wrapped up a couple other projects. The main other effort that's going on is getting some materials ready for the website. You should be seeing that shortly.
And Clark, you mentioned we're pretty much good with the 3 people that you need for that review board.
I don't think, I know that we have one just extremely well qualified friend of Michael, one of the existing ARB members. And then I know David had a couple other people in mind. So
Okay.
I would say we're probably still looking for 2.
Okay, thanks.
So, for the building department enforcement, I just, again, really, I'm glad Paul Briggs said building code. That makes me feel a lot better. It really should be going through the building department. So vacant home registration code and fees, I think that'll be what they're working on. Again, you know, they're doing their best they can to process all the building permits. They're still inspecting. But I think things take a little bit longer. Ace Hardware can attest to that right now. And then the planning department will be working on the planning fees. So I think I saw Paul Briggs drop off, but the legal things that I had on here were we really need their help with the disputed work on the soils. I do lots of things, but I really can't negotiate lawyer back on these kind of things, and I shouldn't. And the Vincenzo deed restrictions, you know, we get emails on this regularly. I know that Paul Briggs had an open line of communication with Lou Lisi on fixing these, and it's very important for me. Like I do follow up on them. I know Denise and John and a couple council people have emailed me and said, really, where is this at? I'm ready and willing to do whatever, you know, we need, but I think that Paul Briggs is really trying to make this happen peaceably.
Laura, can we call a meeting or something though? I mean, this one-off communication just doesn't work. You know, we're being besieged by a text here. You know, I almost said fax. An email here. People showing up on our doorsteps of our houses. You know, you're getting it. I'm getting it. You know, I don't know who else is getting it. I guess John. You know, obviously the supervisor is in the crosshairs on this. I mean, we tried once before. I know, you know, but we need to have a meeting. I mean, we need to either you schedule it and Briggs comes, Elena, whoever, but it's not fair to them. It's not fair to Lou. It's not fair, you know, the photographs, the videos, all of it. And it's certainly not fair to your staff. Yeto, I mean, Yeto's down over there every day. Josh Foley's practically living there. I mean, this is a lot of staff time.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can schedule a meeting for that. I think that's great.
And there's like 57 people who have to be in the meeting. I don't, you know, so. Thank you.
Yeah, I noticed when, I mean, I'm sure like you guys, I mean, like my department are amazing and my staff's so supportive. We just have so much work that it's almost overwhelming. Like, well, it is overwhelming. We do everything that we can to chunk away at these things. But we get a lot of calls and it's hard not being in the office. But so the only reason I'm saying that is I recognize I'm a little worried that the legal department may be completely overwhelmed as well, because I was on your meeting yesterday and I was listening to the list of stuff that the legal department needs to do for you guys. And I mean, I have a list.
Funny.
And
that was a short list. I actually thought Briggs had a short list this month. Yeah, there's a lot going on. Absolutely.
I'm still worried about them. But yes, I will schedule a meeting. I'll make sure that we're on the same page with them and then see if we can move that one.
Yeah, we probably need a pre-meeting and then we'll have. So, okay, great. Thank you, Laura.
And I only say that in support of all of our wonderful departments.
All of our departments.
But good
There was one more thing, and I know it's kind of been put on the back burner. We had something going on Consol Road up towards the Hannaford Plaza with the
sidewalks.
A sidewalk.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. Josh and I were actually just talking about that. We haven't had an escrow meeting in a long time, and that comes up at our escrow meetings, which used to be quarterly. So we need to schedule an escrow meeting so that we don't lose track of these things. But yeah, the Consol Road sidewalks. I think that the last point that you wanted us to look into was he wanted to see where the sidewalk could be located. So that it would be as close to the road as possible so that he could have landscaping, and he wanted to understand what the impacts to the drainage would be. And so I know that I talked to the engineering about it a couple of times, but I think what he really needs is kind of a package of what it would look like. Like if I can't remember, Matt or Josh, off the top of your head, if this is an open swale. And so the question would be, would the sidewalk have to be on the other side of the swale, or could we pipe it in that area? the questions. And then, you know, and his question had been, would we reimburse him for taking? And then the answer to that is generally speaking, yes. And, you know, when you do projects like that, if you are taking real property, and and they're not willing to donate, typically the state and the federal government at least require that you reimburse. So there's definitely precedent for that.
Okay, so as long as we kind of still have it in our sights, that's good. I just don't want to forget about it because that's been going on for a while. I think, geez, I don't know if a prior town councilman started that before I did, or that's been going on for quite some time. We've been trying to get that done.
Yeah, and that's the reason it comes up at the escrow meeting is because we've had that escrow for a long time.
Right.
So the auditors are like, you got to do something with this.
Mhm.
Right. So John, it started with the sidewalks around Hummingbird.
Yes.
That's where it started. So I started that piece of it, and then this was the continuation of it. So yeah, John, I mean, I think this was when I was first elected.
Yeah, quite some time, and
So, yeah.
And I know it kind of fell apart with the homeowner, but then I talked to the homeowner about a year ago and kind of got him to come around. So as long as we just kind of keep it in the fold.
Okay. Maybe I'll just put it back on our agenda. So even if we don't have great updates, you know, we'll put it on there to kind of force that it moves forward until we get it done.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you, Laura.
Okay. And then my bright spot for legal is that, not that we actually had anything to do with this, but 802 Oregon has been on our radar as a problem enforcement for a long time. And the building changed hands recently, and Tom was able to go out there and take a meeting with the new homeowner, and they're taking out a new building permit, and we expect to be able to close this out with no more legal action, just with good working relationship with the new owner. They're aware of the building permit, they're aware of what needs to be done, and so they should be closing it out shortly. So we do have one win on our enforcement section.
That's great news.
Yeah. Oh, you probably remember that one, Alina.
I do.
Yeah.
And are we ready for Dennis?
Dennis.
Yeah, good morning. Nothing really significant to report, except Matt Wall is hoping to move forward with some organizational processes for this Friends of the School, the Niskiuna Common School in the Grange, sometime in January. The other thing is sometime in later this winter in the spring, we really would like to get into the building and take a look around and see what is actually in there. Maybe talk to some of the town engineers about, what is it, what is the conditions of the building? Let's make sure we understand what that is. But that's the only thing for me for this meeting.
Dennis, I did not realize that home on Shannon Boulevard was one of the oldest in the town until Laura just mentioned that. Do you know the history of that home?
Not off the top of my head. It is an old building. It's not. I don't think it's one of. I think it's the late 19th century. I'm not sure it's that much earlier than that. But it certainly is linked with many of the famous names of the towns, the Craigiers and others. And so it certainly is a significant building we wouldn't want to see disappear.
Right.
I can send you it was on the 1985 historic inventory, and I can look up the page and send you a copy of it, John.
That'd be great. Thank you, Dennis. I'm going to go take a look at it at some point.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else for the good of the order? If not, I will make a motion to adjourn. And are there any opposed? Seeing none, I believe we are adjourned. Happy New Year, all.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.